Good morning. This is Kelley Hobart from Alpaca Direct, and I'm here with Sydney, my little puppy. And she's getting so big, she's not that little anymore. It's funny because when you see her and she's standing up, her legs are getting so long. Yep. And let's see, Jim, is she about 16 weeks old now, huh?
Almost 16
Not quite 16 weeks, but almost.
15 weeks.
Yeah. So she's doing really great, and we have puppy class tonight. And so she's doing good in puppy class. She does like to bark a little bit, so we have introduced her a little bit to the no bark collar. And she's doing great. So yeah, can you say hi, Sydney? Hi. Yes, you're such a sweetheart, huh? Yep. So I'll go ahead and give her to Madeline. And today, thanks, Madeline. Today we're going to be talking about how to unzip that pesky old provisional cast-on that can sometimes get all tangled up while you're trying to unzip it, and just some things that I've learned over doing it many times. And what a provisional cast-on does for you is, if you're doing a hat, like on this little sample, I have my provisional cast-on here, and it would be used to join two ends of your work together, so you could have a double thick, maybe a brim for a hat. Usually it's not done very often where it's done flat, knitting flat. It's almost always done in the round, and that's when you have the problem with unzipping it, is when you do it in the round. When it's flat, it seems to unzip so easily, but in the round, yeah, it's just when you have, like a hat, something that's knit in the round. And it's when you join it in the round and then you go back later and try to unzip it. So I thought maybe we can take a look at it and unzip it together. And also, good morning, everyone. It's nice to have all of you here. And for this last week, we had this lovely yarn cozies. And what these are is they help you keep your yarn contained. And it's like a sock for your yarn, and you put your yarn inside of it, and it helps keep your yarn manageable, and the little balls nicely put together. So this was the prize for last week. And I thought maybe this week we could use some Eco Alpaca, and I have either a black or a gray. And what this is, it's by Cascade Yarn Company, and it is baby alpaca yarn, and it is so soft, 100% baby alpaca yarn made in Peru. And some of my favorite yarn ever. No dyes, yes. This is the Eco one. I'm sure, well, it says it's undyed black, but anyway, I don't know how. It's kind of hard to get black that's this black, so I don't know how they did that. Anyway, I just know that alpaca, really black alpacas are hard to come by, right? Even the black ones that we had, Jim, were kind of like brown chocolate. A
little bit of brown in them.
Brown in them, yeah.
But it's softer than the normal dyed yarn.
Yeah, I think this Eco Alpaca is really nice, and it's by Cascade Yarn Company, like I said before. So I wanted to just take a look at this pesky old provisional cast-on. So as we're going along, right, Jim said, what do you do with this? Every week when we give the prize away, how you do is you post comments in the comment section, let us know what you're working on. Maybe you have a name of a pattern or a designer that you like, and then you get entered to win this lovely yarn. And you guys vote to let us know which one you think we should send out to the customer for next week. Should we send out gray, or should we send out the black one? And it gives you a chance to get the yarn in your hand. The winner gets a chance to try the yarn out and see how it is, and see if they like it. It's totally fantastic. So I just wanted to take a second, Jim, and see if we can take a look at this pesky old provisional cast-on. First thing I wanted to look at is, how do you do the provisional cast-on? And like I said, for the provisional cast-ons, a lot of times are used to make a double thick brim. I have some extra needles here, so I just thought I would grab some. Let's see, scrap yarn that's not attached to. Sorry, it's because it rode in my car.
So the people just joining them, what are you going to
show them?
What
I wanted to do is just take a look at this provisional cast-on. How do we do a provisional cast-on with a crochet hook? And then and then how to unzip it. So first, how to do it. The first thing I like to do when I'm doing a provisional cast on is I just make a slip knot. And then I insert my crochet hook, and you hold it in your hands much like you're going to do a long tail cast on. And all I'm doing is when you first get it started, it's a little pesty. So you take your working yarn and put it around the back, and you grab that strand of yarn and you bring it through. So now you can see I have 2 stitches on the needles, and I always put my working yarn to the back, and your crochet hook would be on the right hand side, and you just reach right over the top of the needles, and you're just casting on some stitches right over the top of that needle. And it's actually very easy and simple to do. Now, when I'm doing a provisional cast on, you can see here I have gray yarn that is what I was knitting with, but my provisional cast on is in the pink. And then this one, my provisional cast on is in the green with pink yarn. You want to make it a different color so that when you go to take the provisional cast on off and put those stitches onto your working needles, you can actually see what you're doing. So this is all you do. And then when you've cast on all the stitches that you want to cast on, what I like to do is I like to just do little, I don't know, just like chainette stitches. And then what I would do, I would take my strand, and then I would take the scissors and cut this. And this side right here is where I cast on my last amount of stitches, and I know it is because when I started, I used a slip knot, so there weren't any extra chainette stitches, only on the side where the last stitch was. So when I start knitting my first round of live stitches of my work, then I want to start where that last provisional cast on stitch was cast on, to prevent the problem that we so often have when we're trying to take the provisional cast on yarn off.
What is the problem?
It gets tangled up, and you try to take it off, and you end up having to cut the provisional cast on yarn over and over and over. It just becomes a nightmare to try and get it to come off. And it's usually not a problem. It's not a problem when you're knitting flat and doing a provisional cast on. It's when you join it in the round that it's kind of a pain in the neck. So this one, I had already started to unzip my work. You can see here. And what you want to do when you're unzipping this provisional cast on, you want to, let me just take this off and put it under my leg. Okay, you want to grab the right-hand side of the right-hand side of your stitch goes in the front. So you would just grab it like that and then unzip one. And then see how you see the next stitch, you grab that right-hand leg and unzip it. So in an ideal world, this is how easy you want it to be. And of course, I never thought about doing one that was all messed up, but anyone who's done the provisional cast on has probably dealt with the unzipping being a problem, especially if you've done it in the round. I have many times, and it's really annoying. It's like, how do you fix that problem? I know that there's some things that you need to do. You want to unzip it from where the last stitch was cast on and stuff like that, but still, it can be such a pain when you're unzipping and it doesn't come apart so nice and easy as this does. So also when you're unzipping your stitches, using a needle that's a smaller size needle than what you're knitting with allows you to pick up these stitches easier because it's so much easier to get that stitch onto the needle instead of if you were trying to use a great big needle, it would be harder to get it on. And so this last one is, you just take it out, and then all your stitches are on your needle. So now let's look and see if we can take a different needle and take a look at this one that's in the round, right? So this one right here, if I was taking this one off, so how can you see it like that, Jim? Is that okay? Okay. So then I would just take this and undo that. And then you see how it starts coming off. And then when it gets close to where the first stitch is, that right here is the tail of your yarn. It's not the actual stitch. I'll show you where the first stitch is. And let me grab this needle. Now I only have this needle, which is similar to the size that I knit with. What I'm trying to do is this scrap yarn kind of, if you're using for your scrap yarn a hairy yarn, you could get yarn that kind of sticks like mine was sticking. See how it unzips? Oop. Do you see how it unzipped cleanly? It didn't get stuck on this stitch here. Let's see if it does it again. There you go. So you would just go along and grab each stitch and then unzip it as you go. And you see I'm not having to cut anything to undo it. And all I did was make sure a couple of little tricks that I used to make this work perfectly. And one of them is, one second here. It's basically 2 or 3 things, and then you're good to go. It would have been better. I could have used for my scrap yarn a yarn that wasn't quite so sticky and hairy, and my life would have been easier. But it's still, this is so much easier than what can happen when your yarn gets twisted around these stitches. So when you're trying to take it off, you actually have to take the scissors and cut it. It's really annoying. Have you seen me do that before, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
Where it gets stuck like that, and it's a nuisance. See? So I'm just it's kind of sticky. That's still making it a little bit wanting to grab onto that pink yarn. The green yarn's wanting to grab onto the pink yarn because it's kind of furry yarn.
Choosing your scrap yarn is kind of important then.
Yeah, if you had a strand of like cotton yarn or something that doesn't grab at all, that's ideal. But I just use whatever I have. So, but still, I'm not having to pull out the scissors and make it and cut it, which is a great improvement over what can happen if you I should have showed you what usually happens when you don't follow the little tricks that I'm showing you. Blink. And let's see if there's one
says she uses
more.
all cotton yarns.
Yeah, good. Awesome. Yeah. If I have cotton yarns, I do use them, but I don't take very long to look. And you see, that was pretty quick. And I didn't have to cut anything. This was my scrap yarn. I didn't have to cut a darn thing. So now what I wanted to show you, here's the trick. Sorry, Jim, I didn't mean to bump your yarn. So on here, this is my working yarn. All I did is I took my provisional cast on and I cast all the way onto here. And then I took my real working yarn and I started from here and knit all the way across, all the way around. And then what I do, once I've knit one round, instead of knitting it, joining it in the round on the provisional cast on, I knit one round using my working yarn first. Do you see that, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
How I used my working yarn first, and I didn't just join in the round using my scrap yarn. And that's what prevents it from, so it doesn't tangle. Mm-hmm. So if you just knit one round and then join, so now I've joined, it won't tangle. You can take out this provisional cast on and it won't tangle. Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
So
so summarize the trick again.
The trick is cast on all the stitches on scrap yarn using the crochet hook. Mm-hmm. Okay? Then don't join it in the round if you're doing a hat. Knit one round flat as if you're knitting it flat, and then join it in the round. After you have knit one round using your actual working yarn. And then when I go to take out this scrap yarn, it won't tangle.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's the only thing you have to remember is cast on all your stitches, then knit a round starting from where you cast on your last provisional cast on stitch. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense, Jim?
I think so.
Okay. And then you won't have that stupid problem that we sometimes get. So you ask yourself, okay, how do I tell? I've used a provisional cast on. How do I tell, like on this one, which side is the side where my first stitch was cast on over here? Because I used a slip knot. There's no little stitches on the edge here. So I want to go over, when I go to knit the first round, I want to knit from this side where I cast on my last stitch. Okay. And yes, where I just did some slip stitches with the crochet hook, and then it unzips like a dream. I'm just showing you. See how easy it unzips? Boink. Isn't that cool? Boing. That's how easy it unzips.
There you go.
Okay. So, and I just followed those little tricks, and so I did my provisional cast on. Even if I'm going to join in the round to make a hat, don't join in the round until you use your actual working yarn, starting where that last cast on stitch was, and then you get this. It unzips like a dream. Okay. So, and then, like I said, when you go to, oh, it's this one right here. When you go, oh, I already unzipped that one. When you go to unzip it, it just unzips so easily. And then once you have all your stuff unzipped, you can take, let me just show you. Here's how I join it together. You just, I'm going to just maybe use this scrap yarn. So when I'm going to make the brim of a hat or something, and I want to join those two pieces together, you do it as if you're going to do a knit two together, right? So you would take one stitch from the front and one stitch from the back. And usually your provisional cast on stitches are in the back or on the inside of your hat, if you're doing a hat, for instance. And then you would just do a knit two together all the way around. And then when you have it joined, it looks perfect. It looks, well, I'll show you in a second here after I've done a few. I kind of have this tail is in the way, so I'll slip it on the inside there. But you can see one stitch from the front and then one stitch from the back, and you do it as if to knit two together, because you are actually knitting. You're joining it by knitting two together. And let's see how nice that looks. See how nice it looks on the back side of your work? Mm-hmm. It's just a regular, like a perfect seam, and it joins your work together. That's why I love doing a provisional cast on. And the benefits of having a double thick brim is so awesome. I mean, I totally love. You can do it on the edges of cuffs for mittens or gloves, or you can do it on a brim for around your hat, or you could even use it if you wanted to make a headband. You could use it for a headband and join the two pieces together. Mm-hmm. But I think the opportunities are great when you learn how to do the skill, and especially when you can get it like this puppy dog, how quickly that unzipped.
Several people said they had to cut it all out.
Yeah, I've had to do that. And then it dawns on me, okay, just because you want to join in the round doesn't mean you need to join in the round with your provisional cast on. You can actually join in the round with your working yarn. And then not have it affect the ability of the provisional cast on to be able to be undone. Yeah. So anyways, I'm always learning something new. And anything that I can do that makes life easier, that makes your job more fun, or, makes things in general run smoother is what I want to do. And so doing that little trick with the provisional cast on, where you just cast on all your stitches, make sure that you go to your very last stitch that you cast on, begin the round there as if you're knitting flat, and then join it in the round.
Got it.
works great. It works great every time. I haven't had a time where it didn't work great. And so now I solved that problem.
Someone said she's seen that done for the top of socks.
Yeah, you can do it for socks. Or yes, when you're doing cuff down socks, it works great. Yeah, you can do it for even if you're doing gloves or mittens, the cuff on a mitten or a glove. I love the double thick brim. I have several hats that I've done that with, and it works great. So it's a great skill to learn. And for this next week, I was thinking that I would go ahead and do the ball winder and Swift then, and talk about the brand that is the brands that are my favorite, and how to do it, and using a skein as opposed to a ball, and when you might use the ball winder and the Swift to make two little cakes, like if you're doing socks or what have you. And then we can just do it together. And you know, some people, when they use the they're using a hank of yarn, the hank gets tangled up and they have a problem with that. And I have a couple ideas that I use that help that not happen for me. And so I can show you what I do and see if that helps you be able to use the ball winder and Swift more successfully. And so don't forget, as we're going along today, to vote on this Eco Alpaca. Should we send out the silver color or black color, the 100% baby
Cascade.
alpaca yarn by Cascade, and it's undyed yarn, super soft, great yarn. And the prize for this week was these lovely little yarn cozies with cherries on it. And let's see who you said. Oh, Linda Osborne. Linda, congratulations. You won these wonderful little yarn cozies. All you have to do is get in touch with Alpaca Direct customer service so we can get your shipping address, and we can get that out in the mail to you. So I hope all of you had a great Valentine's Day, and I will talk to you next Tuesday.